When you're first starting out in business, every single dollar counts. So if you're spending money on SEO, on social media, on ads, this video is to tell you to stop. Not forever, just until you understand the numbers, which will hopefully be by the end of this video. Because here's what I have seen hundreds of times as a marketing professional. And it literally just happened recently with a new client that we took on. They had no leads, but they were spending thousands of dollars a month on marketing. How is that possible? Well, they were spending money on things that really weren't getting them results, and they didn't know that. Their only metric for success was I should spend more, because that's what they were told. But more cash was not the problem, and it certainly was not the solution. Their problem is they didn't actually know what they were buying with marketing. They didn't know what outcomes to look for. And until you actually know what outcomes you should be looking for, you are not marketing. You are just guessing. So today I'm going to give you the 4 KPIs that matter for your marketing performance. These are not the end all be all. This is not every single minor key performance indicator within your marketing plan. No, this is just a general overview that if there's something wrong with one of these 4 numbers, you can identify where your blockage is and solve it within your business very simply and very quickly. And you're going to want to stick around until the end, because if you have the first 3 but not the 4th, you are going to be exhausted all the time. Let's get into it. All right, so the first thing that you have to understand is that your marketing efforts should be looked at in a funnel. And there are 4 stages to that funnel that I'm going to give you today. The idea of the funnel is that the majority of the attention, the bigger numbers are up here at the top, which is just getting people to see you. And these smaller numbers are going to be down here at the bottom, because you want to funnel down to the exact clients that you want to engage with. So number 1 is going to be traffic. We're going to define this with fascination, is what we're going to call this stage. Fascination, or traffic. And your goal in this very first stage is just to get eyeballs on your business. You just need people to see you. So at minimum, if you are looking at your web traffic, you're going to use a software called Google Analytics to track it. You say, well, Jared, I don't have a website. Get a website. Your website is your digital storefront. Okay. You need to have it. Someone said, oh, well, I just use Instagram. I don't actually have a website. If Instagram tomorrow banned your account, would you still be in business? No, you need to own the asset. Instagram is rented. Okay. Your website you can own. So that's my little soapbox about that. Fascination is that very first stage. Okay. We want eyeballs on the business, and you're going to get them through 2 outlets: paid channels and organic channels. The organic channels are going to be things like SEO, which is search engine optimization through Google, showing up in Google search and Google AI, like Gemini. AEO, which is showing up in general AI searches like ChatGPT. People also call this GEO. I'm tired of calling it AEO, GEO, and then there's new acronyms all the time. I'm just going to stick with AEO for a while because that's going to be simpler for you to remember. So SEO, AEO, which gets you showing up in AI engines. You've got social media, you have local referral partners, you have maybe participating on like the Chamber of Commerce, you have membership programs, events, you have refer a friend. There's tons of ways that organically you get that attention. And on the organic side, it's more of I don't want to call it a free because you're spending time doing it, or maybe you're paying an annual fee to be on Chamber of Commerce, but it's more momentum and relational building than anything. On the paid side, you've got Google ads, you have meta ads, you have billboards, you have magazines, you have print media. If you send a flyer to someone's house, you have influencers, you have any way that you pay for access to an audience or to a set of eyeballs that you want. Okay. So the paid side, you pay for it. And if you stop paying, you stop getting access. The organic side, you're building that list and you're building that audience. In this phase specifically, Alex Hermosi, his business was primarily on the paid side previously, and then he built this massive social media engine. And I think he cut his annual marketing budget down by over 50% when he primarily moved to organic, because organic is cheaper. It just takes longer to build. Paid, you can kind of just turn on a light switch, but it's much more expensive per lead. So anyway, I don't want to get too in the weeds about this, but your goal on the fascination side, if you are a high ticket service-based business, so maybe a med spa, maybe a plastic surgeon, your goal is to get somewhere in the ballpark of 500 views per full-time provider of services. If you're getting around 500 views per full-time provider of services, you should be getting the leads you need to fill up your schedule in office. So if you've got a handful of people, then you probably are looking at 1,500, 2,000 views a month to your website. Now, are there other metrics you can track? for sure, there's other things that you can track. However, at baseline, drive as much traffic as you can to your website so that you have one home base to know what's working and what's not working. Then from there, you can dissect. If you're like, I'm heavily invested into social media, it's like, great, and you're not getting the leads and the views that you need to your website, let's go take a look at your social and see where the breakdown is. I'm heavily investing into SEO. I'm heavily investing into Google Ads, whatever it is, and what I would say is this should be around the number that you get. If you get a little bit less, it's okay. If you get a little bit more, it's okay. If you're getting a ton less or a ton more, then you probably have an issue. Like I've had people that I start working with where they have a massive multiplier on that number, but no leads. And I'm like, guys, there's a big problem here if you're getting this much attention, but you're not actually getting leads to your business. Okay. So number one number that you need to be tracking is just your web traffic. Let's keep it nice and simple. You're going to install Google Analytics onto your website and track it. If you have Squarespace, Wix, Shopify, all of them generally have like some sort of analytics built in. So if you have one of those, you should be okay. Just use those analytics in the beginning. This is all rudimentary, okay? Let's keep it to fundamentals for now. Okay, once you have the attention to your website, your next goal is to turn that attention into a lead, into somebody's contact information, okay? That stage is called acquisition. Okay, so we have fascination, which is getting eyeballs on the business. We have acquisition, which is turning those eyeballs into contact information that we can reach out to. And if you are in high ticket service-based business, like a med spa, plastic surgery, or something similar, then if you're getting 5%, I say 8%. 8% is the number that we hold our agency to. If you're getting 5%, I'm typically happy for you. Then you're like, you probably have a decent offer on page. You're getting that attention just fine. So the way to track this is all you're going to track is the amount of leads that you got to your business that month divided by the amount of traffic. And then you should be able to get that percentage point, and you'll be able to know what percentage of your leads turned into contact info. You can also configure this directly in Google Analytics. It's just a little more techie and trippy. So I would just say, if you're not techie and trippy, then just divide the numbers. You do it once a month. It's not a big deal. So first number you're going to track, traffic. Second number you're going to track is leads and conversion rate on that page. Now, how do you get that conversion rate up? You're going to do it through what is called a lead magnet, okay? A lead magnet. You're going to do it through some way that you give them a cheaper or free offering that someone says, yeah, I'll trade my contact info for that. So it could be something like, hey, download our, if again, we're in the med spa space, hey, download our oily skin routine, download our philosophy on your skin care through the decades of what you need in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, or something like that. Download our free PDF. Then they click it and they download our pricing sheet. I hear a lot of clinics say that they want to put prices on the website, but having a download for the pricing sheet makes them exchange their contact info for that pricing, which I think is very smooth, because then you can call and say, hey, what were you looking at? Oh, I was looking at your tox prices. Oh, are you interested in getting tox? Yeah, I'm just, I'm in my late 70s and I just really want to get rid of these hard set wrinkles. So I'm looking at tox. And then you can honestly say, well, actually, if you're in your late 70s and you have hard set wrinkles, tox is not going to solve it for you. We probably need to do some sort of a fully ablative laser to really get in there and address it. I don't know. You guys are the experts. Okay. I'm just spitballing here. Okay. But then you can build trust. So that lead magnet allows you to get their contact info. One of the better things that's working right now across the industry, and you can light me up in the comments for it, is $50 off your first service. Now, I have a soapbox about discounting. I think that I agree, monthly discounts where you have monthly specials and all of that, I agree that is not super effective. I believe that you should give a discount for one of three reasons. And the overarching principle here is what is rewarded is repeated. Okay, so I think you can give a discount to encourage more of these behaviors. The first behavior is trying something new. So somebody is a tox patient at your clinic and they're going to try filler for the first time. Absolutely. I'd love to give you a little something to encourage you to add that vertical. You're going to try facials for the first time. Yeah, of course. I'd love to encourage you to add that vertical, because all of a sudden they're doing 5 things with your clinic and you've increased the LTV dramatically. And that there's been a true exchange, because the typical problem with discounting is there is no benefit to the business owner. They're just basically thanking somebody for finally being a client of theirs, or thanking them for coming back, and the client is reaping all the benefit. In this case, you should be rewarding behavior that you want to see more of. So number one is them trying something new, and that can be a new patient offer, by the way, in my opinion. Some people don't love a new patient offer. That's okay. You don't have to love it. You build your business however you want. However, I do think a new patient offer can make sense if that's your mentality. Number two is bulk. If they buy all their talks for the year, if they buy a big package of a laser, if they buy a big package of cool sculpting or something like that, I think that you could give them a package price, which is a discount, because you want that bulk. You want the security of, yes, they've bought all of these sessions and they know that they're going to need the sessions anyway. So for them, they get a little bit of a kickback. So you get the pricing up front, or you get the payment up front, and they get the security of knowing they're going to get the result that they actually want. And the last one is loyalty, which most people already do. Oh, our members get this price. Our members get this price on skincare. Our members get this discount on blah, 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 blah. And there will be people that fight me on discounting, and I'll say, yeah, but do you have a membership program? They're like, yeah. I said, what do they pay? They're like, they pay less. It's like, that's a discount, dude. Now, I do agree with them, because when people say they do like a monthly special, I do think that monthly specials, quarterly specials can typically just train your audience to wait for the discount. They're just waiting for every February you do lips. You do a percentage off lips, and it's like, yeah, 100%. You're training that behavior. But in this case, you're training 3 other behaviors. You're training add more things, you're training do more at once, and you're training be loyal. Those things, I think, are worth incentivizing with a discount. So that's my soapbox about discounts and sales. So all that to say, this lead magnet could be $50 off your first appointment. We see $50 off your first appointment convert really, really well. It can convert up to 10%. It can convert 12%, 15% sometimes on a website. So I would say do not sleep on having a good welcome offer like $50 off your first appointment. Okay. So minimum conversion rate, I say if you're hitting 5%, you're doing a good job. 3% is like the global average, but for med spas and high ticket businesses, 5% seems a little bit more average. Okay, FA, and then the next one, C, conversion, which is what percentage of these leads turned into an actual sale, turned into an actual appointment, turned into an actual new client or new patient. And, there are consultants that will tell you much higher numbers that say, oh, you should be getting 75%, 80%. And I think that's awesome. I personally think that you can only achieve those numbers if you work with a consultant. So if you're welcome to DM me or message me, hey, what consultants do you recommend for my niche? I'm happy to give you at least my list of who I trust. But in general, you should shoot to hit, I say, 55%. Line put out a statistic. Line is a phone tracking software. They put out a statistic that said on average, you should be getting 55% of leads to turn into an appointment. And I find that that's perfectly reasonable. And when I set that as the goalpost for businesses that we work with and they achieve it, they see massive results. In fact, there was one business I was working with. They had a girl at front desk, and they were just, the girl at the front desk was related to the owner. And so there was a little bit of relational struggle. And the owner was just like, oh, this, she doesn't want to work, and she this and she that. And she was getting a 20% conversion rate at the time. And so I then said, hey, this conversion rate is super low. She goes, I know, what do I do about it? I said, let me teach her. Let's see what happens. So we went through, we used the Go High Level CRM, and technically it's called High Level. There's people who light me up for calling it Go High Level, but everyone knows it as Go High Level. So we used the Go High Level CRM, and I gave her a very clear pipeline of, hey, here's how to follow up. She took that number from 20% to 55%. She was fired up at her job again because she had like goalposts that she was shooting for. And they effectively almost tripled their revenue from doing nothing. They didn't spend a single additional dime on marketing, single additional dime on anything else. They just maximized what they were already getting. Okay. So this conversion rate, I cannot stress enough that you should track it. Now, we've got 3 numbers that you're tracking so far. That's it. 3 numbers. Track the amount of people that saw you, track what percentage of those people turned into a lead, track what percentage of those leads turned into an appointment, and then one more number, engagement. You see my cute little acronym, FACE. Engagement is your retention rate. And I cannot stress enough how important retention rate is in your business, especially if you're high ticket sales. I cannot stress enough how important this is in your business. I have a friend who had been in business for 12 years, 15 years, and he called me and he said, Jared, I just don't have, my books are just empty. I don't have appointments on the books. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, you're pretty well established. Like, how big is your list of previous patients? And he said, I have a list of 9,000. I said, buddy, at 9,000, you should be printing money. And he's a wonderful guy. He's an awesome dude. He treats people so well. He delivers excellent outcomes. Like, he is the epitome of like who you would want to go to as a service provider. And he had nobody on his schedule. It's because he didn't know how to follow up and retain. And if you are in a appointment-based business, if you're in like a high-ticket med spa, plastic surgeon, you can just track rebooking rate is kind of the first number that you can track, rebooking rate. So what percentage of people who had appointments rebooked. And yes, that is something where it's kind of on the patient, where the patient should be rebooking or the client should be rebooking, but it's also on your team. Like there should be a flow where you guys say, yes, you are going to come back in 3 months because your tox is going to fade out, or, come back in a year for this because your lip filler is going to, fizzle out as well. Rebooking rate is the simplest one that you can track. You can track that every day and see what percentage of patients today rebooked. That's the simplest one. Your EMR, if you are in a med spa or plastic surgery, your EMR should be able to track general retention rate of like how many appointments on average per year are you doing with people. Galderma says that you should be doing somewhere in the ballpark of 2.5 to 3 appointments per year on average per patient. But the simple number you can track is just rebooking rate. If you can maximize your rebooking rate, you're set. And if you're doing all the work of getting these eyeballs and getting these people, you need to make sure that they are coming back in order to achieve whatever their goals are. So if their goal is to keep wonderful, sweet, like awesome looking skin, then they're gonna have to come back regularly. It's not a one and done. It's not one and fixed. You need to take care of them. If they want to look youthful for the rest of their life, they want to maintain this look that they currently have, they have to come back to maintain it, So they're either going to do it with you or with somebody else, So make sure that you have got that retention rate, because without this, you are going to be just drenched in sweat all the time. You're constantly going to be working super, super hard to get that new business. And really every single new client that you obtain should be adding value to your annual revenue from a retention standpoint, where it's like, yeah, they're going to come back 2 to 3 times this year. And you should know what that LTV or that lifetime value of that client is. I don't want to get too much into that, but the simple of it, the 4 numbers that you need to track is fascination, acquisition, conversion, and engagement. If you are tracking eyeballs on the business and then tracking what percentage of those eyeballs turned into a lead, what percentage of those leads turned into an appointment, and what percentage of those appointments rebooked, you're going to be okay. Now, I don't want to glaze over this and say this is a foolproof marketing plan and you're going to be totally set. No, these are the overarching categories that you need to be tracking. And if there's a problem in any of them, talk to a consultant, or you can send me a DM or leave a comment. Hey, Jared, I struggle with conversion rate. I feel like I call everybody back, but for some reason it's just not working. Great. Let's have a dialogue about it. Let me look at your numbers and I will post content about it or something like that. So if you're having issues in any of these categories, it's more of a signal to let you know that you have an issue that you need to solve. My point in this whole thing is that you have to know your numbers. I can't tell you how often I meet with business owners that say, I'm doing everything. I'm doing everything and I know that I'm doing it and nothing's working. And then when you actually take a look at their numbers, it's like, well, actually, you're not doing any of it right. If you were doing any of it right, you would be seeing improvement across the board. So the data is going to get you honest with where you're at and where you need to go next. Most businesses that think they have a marketing problem really just have a visibility issue. They keep posting more thinking it's going to work, but there's an issue somewhere in the pipeline of what they're doing. So once you finally understand these numbers properly, it's going to give you the data that you need to actually move forward. So if you found this useful or if this was helpful at all, leave a comment below, send me a message, send me an email. I'd love to chit chat about what's working for you and what's not working for you so that I can make more content to help you all grow and get better attention on your business so that you can feel like you've actually got behind the driver's seat of your business. So hit that subscribe button if you want to follow along the journey. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment if you have any questions, and we'll see you in the next one.